really, truly, who cares what anybody thinks? This is my life. And what we've seen over the last few years is life is short and you never, ever know what's going to happen. And we've seen example after example of this. And so you have to ask yourself, how bad do you want it? And find that spark like I found in me to say, all right, I'm going to do this no matter what. And ask yourself, if you're not willing to get uncomfortable, why? Do you think you're going to die? Being uncomfortable does not kill you. And so if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, I believe you are not willing to grow. And anybody listening to this podcast, you are willing to grow. You wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't, so there wasn't some kind of fire in you wanting to do something different.
So the question is this: how do thought leaders, school dropouts, former and current students find out what's next after they do or don't cross that stage? If you want to know the secrets to starting the career or business of your dreams, getting paid whatever you desire, and discovering what you do the best with the least amount of effort, then this is the right podcast for you. I'm Shawn Anthony, and this is School's Over. Now what? The podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am back. This is me, your host, Shawn Anthony, and I'm so glad you clicked that button. I'm glad out of all the podcasts you have chosen to listen to today, and there's over 700,000 of these things, you chose this one. But let me tell you a little bit about what it is that we do here on this show. Each and every single week, we have continued to bring you some of the most inspiring, iconic people who have all answered the question we have all asked ourselves at some point in time in our lives, and that school's over, now what? And each and every single week, we either bring you this inspiring person or a message that's going to help you launch that business, let you flourish in your career, or start your own entrepreneurship journey. And I'm excited for this because, guys, this podcast has completely blown up. And because of you, it's a top 100 business podcast on iTunes. I cannot thank you so much for all the reviews. And if you haven't had a chance, please scroll to the bottom of your screen right now, click that 5-star rating, and leave us a review. You guys know each and every single week I like to spotlight and talk about, one of those reviews. But today I want to do something different, because today I'm coming with an announcement. In light of so many things that are happening right now in the world, I kept asking myself, how do we make true change? How do we do something different? How do we inspire people, but also give them the tools and the resources that they need? And I've had amazing conversations with a new perspective that's going to truly elevate you guys, and we're going to bring you something special. So with that being said, guys, I want you to turn your volume up, and here is a breaking new announcement of something that is coming that will impact you now. In such a time as this, if true equity and change is to be brought about, it must start with economic empowerment within our community.
Through entrepreneurship and true ownership, we can start building wealth for generations to come. Join us August 1st for a one-day digital conference and experience that is packed with the culture's leading entrepreneurs and experts.
To gain the knowledge, resources, and strategies to start your business and take it to the next level. There are no limits to where we will go.
The time.
Our time
is now.
Yo, I'm so excited for what you just heard. That is true, guys. August the 1st, the Journey with Blue and School's Over Now What podcast. We're going to be hosting Our Time Is Now, which will be an unlocking the keys to our wealth in online entrepreneurship and economic development conference. It's going to give you guys the real tools. Not only that, but here's the thing. It's going to come packed with 12 masterclasses and 4 motivational keynotes. And we're bringing out all the heavy hitters, huge names. Be sure to check out the link in the actual show notes right below. Check out that link or visit at ShawnRAnthony_ and click the link in my bio and purchase your tickets. Remember the date, August 1st. It's going to be something special. Now let's get into the reason you clicked that button today. We have the one, the only Amy Porterfield. Guys, I've been at the Amy Porterfield for quite some long time, and this is the perfect time to bring her here on the show. With so much happening in the world and how people are adjusting right now, there's no better person to bring than a person who has been helping entrepreneurs build engaged email lists, digital courses, and profitable webinars than it is Amy Porterfield, who's also an online marketing educator. This episode is jam-packed with so much knowledge, so many gems, because I wanted to ask her all the questions that we could possibly ask dealing with what's happening with the world today and how we can all navigate through this, how we can still be profitable, how we still can get out our message, how we still can resonate with people. So if you're listening to this right now, you're driving in the car, get ready to save this episode. You're going to want to come back to it. If you're sitting down, this is the point where you grab the pen, you grab the paper, get ready to take so many notes. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 112 with Amy Porterfield. Ladies and gentlemen, I am back with somebody that I am so glad we're having on the show today. We have been after her for quite some time. We have the one and only Amy Porterfield on the show today. How are you?
Well, I am wonderful. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm excited for this one because everything that you're doing right now is so crazy to me because you have been specializing in an area that I think so many people are realizing, yo, I need this. And they're needing it more now, right? Because they're all at home. So I'm glad to do this.
Yes. You know, I've seen it more and more with the pandemic hitting everybody the way it has. We've definitely seen a rise in interest in what we're doing over here. So I totally agree.
So people right now, they're Googling you. They're checking you out right now through the show notes. They're clicking, that Instagram handle and finding out more about you. I'm always interested in people's upbringing and where they came from. Tell us a little bit about Amy as the girl growing up.
Okay, so I grew up in Orange County, California, and my dad was a firefighter. My mom was a hairstylist. So I always say we were blue collar to the bone. One family vacation a year. My dad had 2 jobs, saved tons and tons of money all the time. I felt like all we were doing was saving. So it was a household of a dad that my dad kind of called the shots. He ruled the household. My mom, like I said, was a hairstylist and then became a stay-at-home mom and was with us a lot as well. So I grew up pretty middle class, and I was a cheerleader and I always liked to be in charge. So I think my leadership skills kind of played out since I was very young. I like to be the boss of everything. I'm not proud of this, but that's how it was.
Sometimes you gotta be that way. So you're growing up, right? You're like this, the female boss growing up. Like, was there certain things like in school that was just like catching your attention? You're like, you know what? I might like this.
You know, it's so weird that I'm an entrepreneur because never, ever did I even utter those words all through high school or college. I never thought about being my own boss. I always saw myself in a corporate environment, climbing the corporate ladder and having that office in the corner with the big windows at some kind of big deal job. I always wanted to be a big deal. And that could be ego, but also I wanted to make a difference genuinely, but always corporate. And my dad, when I was really little, my sister and I would be like on the floor playing Barbies, and he would just come into the room and randomly would say, find a way to be your own boss. He always would say that. And it wasn't until I became an entrepreneur that I literally had that flashback and thought, my dad has been telling me this all my life, but I literally didn't even know what the heck he was talking about. So I stumbled a little bit into entrepreneurship, but I always thought I would be a corporate girl.
Oh, that's crazy. So your dad constantly kept saying this, right? So he constantly kept telling you this. Like I'm always interested in, the why behind conversations. So I'm just curious for you, was there something that you seen your dad doing? Cause he was saving so much. He's like, yo, forget all this I'm doing. Yo, you need to figure out how to be your own boss so you don't have to do this.
I think so. So he, like I said, he was a firefighter and he really loved being a firefighter. And loved his job, but he also, his side job was an air conditioning and heating business that he created. And I think that when you're a firefighter, so my husband happens to be a firefighter as well. There's no coincidence there. And with a firefighter job, you have 24 hours on and 24 hours off. So you have a lot of time on your own. And I think that's what my dad loved about the job. He loved to do what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it, how he wanted to do it. And so having his own business on the side really showed him that freedom as well. So he knew what it meant to not have to answer to other people. And I think he saw these two daughters of his, it's just me and my sister, like, you need to figure out how to do this, because he knew that was like the good life.
That's good. I mean, it's good. It's always good to have that person that can, tell you, hey, look, you might want to try this out, right? It could impact you, it can add value to you. Like for you, what was like the first entrepreneur thing that you did, right? Like you say, you always want to be your own boss. Like, did you create something or start something, at a young age that you just liked?
Well, you've likely heard the story of Gary Vee selling the baseball cards at different events and stuff, right?
Of course.
I hear those stories and I think like, that guy was born to be an entrepreneur. And I'm embarrassed to say this, but I can't think of many times except a bake sale on the corner that I ever did that was entrepreneurial. So I guess, and I like to say that because a lot of people listening, they might say like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. This wasn't kind of like who I am at my core, to be my own boss and do my own thing. I actually don't even think I'm that creative. Now, what I mean by that is I don't have a million ideas circling around in my head like most entrepreneurs do. I typically come up with one idea, and when it works, I double down and I get really good at it. But I am definitely different than most entrepreneurs that you and I, before we hit record, I told you I'm not super fun or exciting or anything like that. I just know what I do well and I double down on that. So I think that has helped me immensely.
Yeah, but I think that's a crazy skill to have, because so many people who are those super creative thinkers, they start trying out 10 things and they never finish one of them. Right?
So true. I am a finisher. That is for sure.
So like for you, it sounds like niching down and, and focusing on, one specific thing. And one thing that you specialize in, I think is worth talking about today is emails, right? Your email marketing strategy. Like what do you look for? Like, could you give our, we have so many entrepreneurs that are listening to this right now. We got you. You're an expert. They want to know tips. Like, what do you look for in the terms of an email to, let's just say I'm trying to build my list before we even do the whole breakdown. I'm trying to build my list. I have Amy Porterfield. What advice would she give on that?
Okay. So it's not the most sexiest advice, but your competitors won't do it. So this will give you an edge. And that is that when you want to grow your email list, the first thing you need to do is create original content consistently. Now, what I mean by this is you're blogging every week, or you're podcasting every week, or you're doing a video show every week. And if you want to start out with a Facebook Live or an IG Live every week, that's fine to start out with as well. But you are creating original content every week, because for you to become the go-to source, that person that people want to go to get the answers they need in whatever niche that you're in, you've got to put stuff out there. So you say, I am your go-to source. So it starts with that. Now you might say, well, then where does list building come into that? How do I grow my email list just by putting out original content? Once you start putting out content, you're going to start attracting your audience. And from there, you're going to create a lead magnet, a freebie of some kind, cheat sheet, checklist, PDF, a short video, a short audio. Now, here's where times have changed. I've been doing this for 11 years. 11 years ago, a quick little fun cheat sheet and made a big difference. The audiences online have gotten savvier. And so when you do create a lead magnet or a freebie, I want you to create something that you actually could charge for. Now, that doesn't mean it's a 100-page ebook. That is not a good lead magnet. A good lead magnet is something that people could digest quickly and get a quick win. So you're going for something easy, fast, not super intense, but something that people would be like, whoa, this is really good. I'd pay for this. And so you want a lead magnet and you want to put it out there. And so when you're blogging or podcasting, you could mention it over and over and over again. So those are two things you really need: weekly content, rain or shine, and a lead magnet that you can talk about anywhere and everywhere.
Yo, that was real. I think because that's spot on. Simple, sound advice, right? So let's say I got that lead magnet, right?
Yeah.
The list is starting to build. People are starting to, be involved. And I'm starting to have, 100 subscribers and then 200 subscribers. Now I'm at the point where I want to start sending emails off that could possibly convert, right? Where do I start? I want to go full in here because I want to be that person that's going to have a breakthrough on this podcast and no one's resonating with my email. Where do I start?
Okay. So you said you had Jasmine Star on your podcast not long ago, right?
Facts. Yeah.
Okay. That girl is really good at grabbing attention in people's emails or in people's inboxes. So one thing I like to use examples. One thing that Jasmine does really well is she tells personal stories in her emails. She lets you in. And I think right now where we are in the world and what is working the most with online marketing in general is you got to be more real. And I'm talking like gritty, honest, take them behind the scenes. And so what's working right now in email marketing is storytelling. And whether you're selling something or just engaging with your audience, tell them about you. Tell them about a story that might resonate with them. Give them a lesson that you learned and talk to just one person in that email. I call it my ideal customer avatar, my ICA, but I think about what she looks like, who she is. I give her a name. And every time I sit down to write an email, I am only writing for her. Now, this is a little small nuance, but it makes a difference. Never in an email will I say, hey, everyone, I hope you're having a great week. I am talking to one person. So I say I hope you are having a great week. And let me talk to you about this one thing. And have you ever felt this way? One person. And the best compliment you could get is if someone opened your email and they say, I thought you just wrote that for me. I couldn't tell if that was an email for your list or for me. Ding, ding, ding. You've hit the jackpot.
Yeah, it's all about making that personalized message, right? How do you feel like I'm sitting down with you, we're in a room and we're having a conversation. So you talked about something right there that obviously is garnering a lot of attention right now with COVID-19, right?
Yes.
It's taken this whole place by storm and people are now at home. So we talked about emails, but one thing that I see people gravitating towards that you specialize in as well is digital courses. Right.
Let's talk about it. My favorite topic.
Let's talk digital courses, right? Let's say I have been so used to either speaking on a stage, impacting people, or perhaps I have a message that I want to just teach and talk about. How do I start a digital course? What are the platforms and how do I get that word out when people are like, hey, I want to sign up for this?
Okay. So I'm going to give you a few quick tips here because you are just like me. I like to give the solid tips that people can run with. So the first thing is if you're thinking about creating a digital course, which you are a smart cookie if you are, because people are more inclined than ever to actually learn through a digital course right now. And I'm talking everything from baking banana bread all the way to learning how to play the guitar, to doing their taxes, to passing the bar exam, to everything in between. If you need a digital course, you will find it online now. And people, again, are open to learning online more than ever. So with that, when you're thinking about creating a digital course, there's 3 approaches that I want you to think about. Approach number 1 is that you've gotten results for yourself and you know how you got those results. And people are like, how did you do that? You can teach that in a digital course. The simplest example is one of my students, Katrina. She was a busy female physician. She was 50 pounds overweight and she was tired, miserable, hated it, wanted to make a change. So she lost 50 pounds while still working the night shift, while having crazy, crazy hours and being incredibly stressed. She lost the weight. Other busy female physicians are like, how did you do that? She created a course to teach them how to do it. She also had an incredible 200,000 plus launch, and the woman had never launched anything online before. So don't think that just because you don't know online marketing, you can't figure this out. Okay, so the first approach is you've gotten results for yourself. Now you're going to teach how you got those results. The second approach is you've gotten results for somebody else. Maybe you're a coach, a consultant. Maybe you're a trainer of some sort, and you've helped other people. You can take that process that you use to help them, turn that into a digital course because you're only one person and there's only so much money you can make in one-on-one consulting, coaching, teaching kind of thing. So you take that process, turn it into a course. The third option is you're really good at a system or a technique or a software, and you can teach other people how you do that, how you use that. So I have a student, she's an interior designer. There's a software called SketchUp. I had never heard of it before, but she uses it to run her business. So she created a digital course to teach other interior designers how she uses SketchUp, her hacks, her little nuances that other people don't know about. It was a huge hit. So she taught a software that she doesn't even own in a digital course. So those are three approaches. You get results for yourself or for somebody else, or through a technique, a system, a tool, something like that. So once you know what you want to teach, there are so many. You asked about platforms. There's so many great platforms. My favorite is Kajabi. So Kajabi. Kajabi is a platform. What's important for a digital course is you're going to put your videos and your PDFs and your audio inside of a platform that you can password protect. So when people buy your course, you give them a username and password, and now they can get in and it's protected. If it's not protected, they're going to say, why the heck did I even just pay for this? I could have found it for free online. Yeah. So Kajabi, you don't need a programmer. You don't need a coder. I am not a techie girl. So I always look for the simplest tools, but the ones that work really well. So that's like one of the best platforms that you can use.
Hey guys, so let me take a guess. You're enjoying the show. And if that's right, please make sure that you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast right now and tag me at Shawn R. Anthony _. I promise you this is going to help in amazing ways. And while you're at it, hit the 5-star rating and subscribe. With that being said, guys, let's get back to the show. Yo, so much free game you're giving right now. You basically just told them, look, you have no idea doing it. This is how you can do it. This person's making $200,000. They've never launched anything before. I mean, it's so many simple steps. And I like the fact you mentioned Kajabi and giving people a site that they can go to right now, even if they're not tech friendly, and can figure it out. That's what it's really all about, right? So I want to ask you the question here. As a person who's learning about email marketing, right? They're learning about digital courses. What do you see right now being some of the mistakes? Because so many people are like, you know what? I'm going to push this out. Everybody's at home. Everybody's sitting at the crib. I got to get this out. What are the mistakes that Amy noticed right now?
Yeah. So number one is not having an email list. And I just want to give you some great news if you're listening. You do not need a huge email list in order to be profitable. I have students that have a list of 200, 250, and they have done very well with their launches. So we're looking for a strong email list, but not a huge email list. I always say small, but mighty. So make 250 your first milestone. 500 your second milestone, 1,000 your third milestone. You've got 3 milestones to grow that email list. We're going one at a time. So focusing on your email list and not pushing it down the priority list is the best thing you could do. Number 2 is when you create a course, you do not need to throw everything in the kitchen sink into that digital course. I suggest most of my students start out with what I call a starter course, which is like you're going to teach somebody how to get started, like 101. My first course I ever created that was successful, believe me, I've had a few failed ones when I was first starting out, but my first successful one was a Facebook 101 type course. It was $97, and I help people just get started with Facebook who are growing their small businesses. That's the best way to go, because then your audience will tell you what they want next, and you can create more robust courses from there. So start out simple. I think part of my secret to success is that I don't add a lot of bells and whistles. I keep it as simple as possible. Because the reason I created an online business, beyond the fact that I genuinely did want to be my own boss, is that I really like lifestyle freedom. I like to choose when I work, how I work, where I work. And so if I make my business too complicated, like I only have 2 digital courses in my business that make up 88% of my revenue. So if I had 5, 6 digital courses, I would drive myself crazy. So start out simple, 1 lead magnet, 1 digital course, dial those in and get them really good. So I think one of the biggest mistakes I see is overcomplicating this. It doesn't need to be that hard. And ask yourself when you're like, this is too hard, this is confusing, ask yourself, well, what could I do to make this easier? There's always an answer in that question.
Yeah, it always is. I think it's like, how do I remove, right, the friction, right?
Yes, I like that.
It's so many people, there's like so many links. You click a link, hit another link, until you finally get to the main reason you clicked the link in the first place, right? I think
Yep.
that's so much value that you just gave there. I want to know, like, for you, right? Like with all these things going on with the world today with COVID, what can people expect from Amy Porterfield? What's next for her? How does she, plan to navigate, through all these things that's going on?
It's such a great question. When COVID hit and we realized so many people were sent home and realized they did not want to go back to a job, the first thing we did is we created this guide called Be Your Own Boss. And so the first thing I wanted to do is start teaching people, how do you ease into starting your own business when you're in the cubicle or you're in a job that you have to go to every day or now report into every day from home. So that's one thing we did. And then the other thing we did, like you said, I teach people how to create digital courses. And in the next launch that we're doing, I re-recorded the entire program from scratch. And I added in an element that, one, you could pre-sell your course so you can make some money up front before you create it. And the reason I did that is I'm looking for the simplest way to get my students traction. And I think that's where we are right now. People need to make money. People need to see some successes. And many of us, including myself, have a low level anxiety, sometimes creeps in there like depression, where we're just living in uncertain times, and times are sad and scary and uncertain. And so we need some wins. So the way I've positioned my business is, how do I get people wins as quickly as possible so they start feeling really good about moving forward? So that's really what my focus has been right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good focus to have, right? Because sometimes you need that push, you need that momentum, you need to feel like, hey, all right, I might need to do this, right? And I might need to make this happen. I want to ask you a question that we've asked pretty much every single person that has ever hopped on this platform, that's ever hopped on this podcast. That is, if you were that person who was sitting, at home, let's say you graduated college, or let's say, you said, forget it, I'm going to drop out. Asking yourself the question of the show, school's over, now what? What advice would Amy Porterfield give?
I love this. I would give the same advice that my dad gave, which is find a way to be your own boss. And it sounds like, based on that question, that's really what they're thinking. All right, what could I do? How could I do this? Start creating. One of the biggest mistakes that most people make that want to start their own thing is that they say, well, I don't know what I want to start. I don't know what I want to sell. So they don't do anything, or they closet create, which is you've got blog posts or podcasts, but you refuse to put them out into the world. I got to tell you a quick story. When I was a corporate girl, I worked for Tony Robbins for 7 years. I got to create the content that Tony did on stage and all of that. And when I went out on my own, my biggest fear was, well, what is Tony going to think of me putting this out there? He's going to be like, who's Amy doing that? Like, she doesn't know enough about that. I was so scared of what Tony Robbins was going to think that I didn't want to put myself out there. And my sweet, sweet husband said to me one day, Amy, Tony's not thinking about you. He doesn't care. And I think that that is a message our loved ones need to tell all of us. Whoever you're worried about seeing you put stuff out there, kind of like your first iteration is going to be ridiculous anyway. We all have those bad videos that we started out with. No one is paying as much attention as you are. Everyone's in their own head doing their own thing. And if they did pay attention and if they did care, are they paying your bills? You got to remember that, because the answer is no. So if we care less about what other people think and we focus on, why do you want this so bad? Like, why do you want to do your own thing? For me, I didn't want anybody telling me what to do or how to do it anymore. I had enough of that. So every time it got hard, every time I was embarrassed to put myself out there, every time it felt awkward, which it did for the first 2 years, I just thought, I want this bad. So I'm willing to feel awkward and uncomfortable because I want this. And thank God, 11 years later, that I stuck that out.
Yo, that was hard. That's probably one of my favorite responses of all time at that question, because like literally, like, tell me how you felt having that conversation, like emotionally. Right? Having that conversation, because so many people right now are listening to your story, that breakthrough moment, and they turn the other cheek. They say, you know what, I'm just going to go back here. I'm just going to give up. Like, what is that conversation like? What is the emotion? How are you feeling, with talking to your husband about it?
It was a little bit embarrassing and humbling that I realized, oh my gosh, you're totally right. But then there was this like spark of empowerment. Like, wait a second, like, really, truly, who cares what anybody thinks? This is my life. And what we've seen over the last few years is life is short and you never, ever know what's going to happen. And we've seen example after example of this. And so you have to ask yourself, how bad do you want it? And find that spark like I found in me to say, all right, I'm going to do this no matter what. And ask yourself, if you're not willing to get uncomfortable, why? Do you think you're going to die? Being uncomfortable does not kill you. And so if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, I believe you are not willing to grow. And anybody listening to this podcast, you are willing to grow. You wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't, so there wasn't some kind of fire in you wanting to do something different. So I dare you, just get out there and just put out your stuff. Put out your stuff right now. It gets better, but it will never get better if you don't get it out there first.
Yeah, I love that. You've been phenomenal today, and phenomenal episode. People right now are going to know that they need to put their stuff out. They don't have to stop holding back, stop writing it down and not, creating it. Some people, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to get to it later, or I'll find that person later on down the road. Now is the time. Amy, people want to know more about you, right? Where can they find you? Where's all your information? How can they find out about these amazing digital courses you have going on and other things?
Thank you so much for asking. So I've got a podcast called Online Marketing Made Easy, and you can learn all about list building and course creation for free. And I am at amyporterfield.com or at Amy Porterfield on social. Thanks so much for asking, though.
Oh, anytime. We got to do this again. We appreciate you and having you on the show today. And ladies and gentlemen, always remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it. Yo, what you think? I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I want to know what you learned. So if you wouldn't mind, would you take a screenshot of you listening to the podcast on your phone right now? Upload to your Instagram stories, tag me at Shawn R. Anthony _, and then let me know in that Instagram story what is one thing that you learned. I love hearing from you, my listeners, thought leaders, former or current students all around the world. Let me know, and while you're doing this, go inside the podcast app, subscribe, leave a 5-star review and a 5-star rating. Again, this helps us reach more people. And if you want to be a part of this mission, helping us change the world one person at a time, it makes a massive difference by you leaving a review. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week. And remember, dream it, believe it, go out and get it.